Many people may wonder what happens to a person's consciousness when their life ends. Does the end of life mean the end of everything? Does the soul exist? On October 6, 2020, Roger Penrose, a mathematician and physicist, was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics for his observations and research on black hole theory. However, he is also one of the most controversial Nobel laureates. The reason for this controversy is that Roger Penrose proposed a taboo topic in the scientific community. He believes in the existence of the soul and claims that after life, the soul leaves the body and returns to the universe in a quantum form. Hello, today we're going to discuss about the quantum form of the soul. Speaking of the soul, we have to mention a question: what is life? What can be considered as life? In the 13.7 billion years since the birth of the universe, various things have emerged, and among them life is one of the most complex and mysterious. So, what is life? From a biological perspective, life refers to a being that can fulfill its own biological functions, such as growth, reproduction, and metabolism, by exchanging matter and energy with the external environment. It can adapt to changes in the external environment and respond to stimuli. This world is composed of matter, and everything, including life, is made up of various materials. Many people think that life is composed of microscopic cells, genes, DNA, and so on. But this understanding is not entirely correct. The core of life is actually consciousness. What is consciousness? Like dark matter, it is a mysterious thing that we currently cannot see or touch. Every living being has a certain level of consciousness, whether it is an animal, a plant, a simple organism like bacteria or viruses, or a higher life form like humans. They all have consciousness, but the strength of consciousness varies. The consciousness of plants and bacteria is very weak, while the consciousness of complex animals such as humans is stronger. As the only advanced intelligent life form on Earth, humans have the most powerful consciousness, and human consciousness holds many secrets that we are not yet aware of. Life can be said to be a combination of visible matter and invisible mysterious consciousness. For example, humans are intelligent beings composed of a visible body and an invisible mysterious consciousness. No form of life can escape a fundamental law: birth, aging, sickness, and death. Even advanced intelligent beings like humans start to age from the moment of birth. As humans entered the age of technology, the exploration of the mysteries of life also deepened. With powerful tools, scientists have been trying to uncover the secrets of life step by step. One of them is Roger Penrose and his theory of quantum soul. Roger Penrose, a British mathematician and physicist, is a doctor from the University of Cambridge and an honorary professor at the University of Oxford. Penrose is a close friend of Stephen Hawking. He proposed a concept called singularity, which is an infinitely small and infinitely dense point. Through calculations, it was determined that a singularity forms when a massive star collapses, resulting in a black hole. Based on this, Hawking proposed that our universe may have originated from such a singularity. This theory is called the Penrose singularity theorem. It was this discovery that earned Penrose the 2020 Nobel Prize in Physics. He later proposed a taboo topic in the scientific community. He believed that the human soul would continue to exist in a quantum form. In 1989, Penrose wrote a book called The Emperor's New Mind. In it, he argued that no matter how advanced artificial intelligence becomes, it will never surpass a regular human being in one aspect: intuition. This can also be understood as the soul or consciousness. According to Penrose, artificial intelligence is based on logical operations and can never escape its mechanistic nature. However, consciousness can only exist in a quantum system. How does human consciousness come about? Penrose believes that the human brain contains many electrons in an entangled state. Each time these electrons collapse, the mind generates various thoughts and ideas. It is through the continuous collapse and entanglement of these electrons that the so-called soul or consciousness emerges. Up to this point, it still sounds scientific. However, the theories and explanations he presents about the soul are filled with a mystical flavor. He claims that after a life ends, the soul does not disappear. The quantum information within it is not destroyed, and it will leave the body and return to the universe. This explanation is extremely similar to the concept of the soul in mythology. To put it in simpler terms, the soul continues to exist in the universe. According to this perspective, our universe suddenly becomes filled with uncertainties. If the soul is immortal, where does it go? Before we delve into Penrose's viewpoint, let's first take a look at how scientists from different eras and the modern scientific community have explained the soul. The earliest scientific research on the soul was the soul-weighing experiment. In 1901, a surgeon named Duncan McDougall conducted an experiment to measure the weight of the soul. Some people had proposed that the soul would leave the body after death. So, by measuring the change in weight between before and after death, could the weight of the soul be determined? Based on this hypothesis, McDougall, using his identity as a surgeon, found some patients who volunteered to participate in the experiment. In 1901, he selected 6 patients from a nursing home for testing. 4 of them had tuberculosis, 1 had diabetes, and 1 had an unknown cause of illness. When they were close to the end of their lives, they were placed on a specially designed bed with a measuring device installed underneath. The experiment for the first participant lasted for 3 hours and 40 minutes. During this period, the participant lost about 28 grams of weight per hour, which was attributed to normal water loss from breathing and sweat evaporation. However, near the end of the experiment, the participant's weight suddenly dropped by 21 grams in just a few seconds. This rapid decrease couldn't be explained by metabolism. Could this be the weight of the soul? McDougall immediately carried out 5 more experiments. Unfortunately, the weight of the subsequent participants fluctuated multiple times after brain death. Particularly, the weight of the 5th participant continued to decrease by about 73 grams after death. However, even after moving the participant off the bed, the weight remained stable for 15 minutes. This sounded somewhat eerie. Was there a problem with the measuring instrument? He couldn't explain it clearly. Afterwards, he also conducted measurements on animals and made a surprising discovery. Dogs showed no change in weight after death. As a result, he concluded that only humans have souls and animals do not. The weight of the human soul was estimated to be around 21 grams. In 1907, the New York Times published McDougall's experiment, which caused a sensation but also faced criticism from many scholars. Indeed, there were some inconsistencies in the experiment, especially regarding the data, which had some flaws. Some scholars believed that at the moment of death, body temperature suddenly rises, causing a difference in weight due to sweating. Dogs, on the other hand, did not show any change because they lack sweat glands. Possibly out of dissatisfaction, McDougall came up with a bold idea. He abandoned the soul-weighing experiment and planned to capture out-of-body experiences of the soul using special light. If the soul really leaves the body at the moment of death, could it be captured in a special way? Subsequently, he attempted to use X-rays to capture scenes of the soul leaving the body. Unfortunately, there were no significant results even until his death. In 1939, a Soviet technician named Kirlian and his wife continued his experiments, aiming to photograph the soul. To capture the soul, they needed to understand what the soul is. If it has color, special light could be used to capture it. If it has temperature, infrared cameras could be used. But what if it has nothing? Kirlian thought of energy. He invented a technique called Kirlian photography to capture the bioenergy field, and subsequently, European scientist Korotkov improved upon the Kirlian photography method. In 1997, Korotkov brought in a photojournalist to conduct an experiment on dying patients. By comparison, he found that during the dying process, some blue particles gradually left the human body. He believed that this blue color was the soul. However, this hypothesis was soon questioned because the Kirlian photography method itself had flaws. Many scholars believed that the blue color was likely just the loss of water and heat from the body. Until today, almost all experiments in search of the soul have ended in failure. Therefore, many scientists believe that the soul or consciousness cannot exist independently. For example, Francis Crick, the Nobel laureate in physiology or medicine in 1962, also studied consciousness. He believed that consciousness exists within neural cells and is a special phenomenon that forms during the human brain's development. So far, this is the widely accepted view in the medical field. Does consciousness completely disappear after death? Has no scientist challenged the problem of the soul again? Another ongoing area of research is near-death experiences, which is related to the concept of the immortal soul. When studying the soul, it ultimately involves the topic of life and death. This is why the concept of near-death experiences has been proposed. What is a near-death experience? It refers to the period of unconsciousness from when a person is critically injured and taken to the hospital until successful resuscitation. Scientists have conducted extensive interviews with near-death patients and found that these individuals often have fantastic and similar experiences during this period of unconsciousness. These are what we call near-death experiences. For example, they can feel their consciousness leaving their bodies, they can review their lives, and some can even see deceased loved ones. What is particularly strange is that almost all of them have experiences of their souls leaving their bodies. At this point, the question arises, why do patients from all over the world have similar experiences? How do these experiences occur? This has always been a major challenge in near-death experience research. How does Penrose explain it? Penrose proposes that near-death experiences in humans are like a program in the quantum computer of the brain, which continues to exist in the universe even after death. In other words, he believes that the soul is a form of quantum matter. This matter, after leaving the human body, returns to the universe. This may be difficult to understand, but it starts with quantum mechanics. In quantum mechanics, there is a concept called superposition, which refers to a microscopic quantum being in multiple states simultaneously. The state of this quantum entity is very similar to our consciousness. So could consciousness or the soul also be in this quantum state? In 1994, Harvard University in the United States announced a research result. They found a structure called microtubules in the human brain. These structures are widely distributed among the neurons in the brain, like wires, and these structures have properties similar to quantum superposition. This means that consciousness not only exists within the brain, but also exists in some corner of the universe. Penrose later became involved in this research and, together with Stuart Hameroff, the director of the Center for Consciousness Studies at the University of Arizona, proposed the Orchestrated Objective Reduction Theory, or CHOR. Simply put, according to this theory, the soul or consciousness exists within the microtubules of the brain and is in a quantum form. After death, the microtubules lose their quantum state, but the quantum information in the brain is not destroyed. Therefore, these quantum pieces of information float and go into the universe. During a near-death experience, when the person regains consciousness, the microtubules return to their quantum state, and the lost quantum information returns to the brain. At this moment, the near-death person is surprised to find that they seem to have experienced a special near-death experience. In fact, this near-death experience is the process of the quantum consciousness going into the universe. Therefore, Penrose believes that if we explain it using this method, the consciousness of the human body does not disappear after death, but goes to some place in the universe. This situation is very similar to the concept of the soul in mythology. Therefore, it can be loosely defined as the soul. However, Penrose does not explicitly acknowledge that this quantum consciousness is equivalent to the soul. He only says that it is very similar to the concept of the soul we previously discussed. It must be acknowledged that the concept of the soul existing in the universe is a metaphysical consensus. However, this is also why Penrose has been criticized by some mainstream scientists. Some scholars have pointed out that there are also many microtubule structures in the human cerebellum, but people with cerebellar injuries have consciousness that is no different from normal individuals. Does the soul only exist in the brain? Therefore, the orchestrated objective reduction theory still faces much debate. Later, this theory became known as quantum soul, with some people referring to it as unfounded in the scientific community. While many scientists firmly believe in it, does the soul truly exist? At this point, we are reminded of the dimensional theory proposed by scientists, the theory of consciousness and the multiverse. Mathematician and physicist Edward Witten once proposed that the universe consists of multiple dimensions with 11 dimensions in total. The world where humans exist is in three-dimensional space, and life from higher dimensional spaces may not be able to physically descend into lower dimensional space. They can only descend in the form of consciousness, a special form. Scientists speculate that each person's soul may be a projection of the higher dimensional world into our current dimension. So why would the souls from the higher dimensional world come to our dimension? In our three-dimensional world, everything exists with consciousness. If this consciousness is a projection of the souls from the higher dimensional world, why would they come from higher dimensions to lower dimensions? Some scientists speculate that consciousness in higher dimensional space may not be a specific organism, but rather a universal law that governs the basic functioning of the universe. If that's the case, it can explain why the consciousness from the higher dimensional world would take the risk of coming to our current three-dimensional space. It's the task of higher dimensional consciousness, an instinct as a universal law. This reminds us of the concept of reincarnation that has been passed down since ancient times. Reincarnation is a natural law. When life dies, the soul leaves the body and enters the cycle of rebirth, starting a new life. If this is the case, then the end of life does not mean the end. For consciousness, each ending will be a new beginning. If, in the future, this seemingly absurd speculation is proven correct, death will become less fearful and intimidating in a certain sense. The mystery of consciousness will eventually be unraveled by the scientific community. Only by truly unraveling the mystery of consciousness can humanity truly unravel the mystery of life. Perhaps at that time, humans can grasp the true secret of eternal life, even if the end of life may not necessarily mean the end. Therefore, we should still cherish life and live beautifully in the present. Thanks for watching.